The American Association of Feed Control Officials 2025 annual meeting was earlier in August, and I attended again this year. And so today's episode, we're kind of running down some of my takeaways from this year's meeting. If you are new here, thank you so much for being here. My name is Jessica. I am a certified canine nutritionist and holistic pet health coach, and this is the Pet Parenting Reset, where I bring you all kinds of incredible information for making better choices for your pets, for their health and for their happiness, for hopefully an extended life, but certainly a healthier life. With that, let's jump into AAFCO. So AAFCO is not a regulatory body. We talk about this all the time on the podcast. They have been contracted for, I don't know, over 100 years, something like that, by the FDA to provide guidelines for not just pet food, but feed, which is why it's the Association of Feed Control Officials. So all, livestock feed, all the things, they cover it all. And so it's a crazy time. It's a crazy, crazy time. We've talked a little bit about the PUR Act in the past. If you've missed those episodes, you can certainly go back to them. The PUR Act is still in Congress, but it is it's dissolving the Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between FDA CVM, which is the Center for Veterinary Medicine at the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, with AAFCO, that has been in place for a very, very long time. Some of the things that were talked about this year were kind of follow-up from last year, because last year was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, people in the room were silent because nobody knew what was going on, what is happening. And I think we're still kind of in that place, but AAFCO is definitely grasping to remain relevant. And the FDA is saying that they are still going to work with AAFCO, just not in the same ways. Anyway, we're going to get into all of that really quickly. I want to present to you a really incredible product that I have been using for Kim. And I want to say thank you, because without sponsors, this podcast may not continue. So let's talk about Legacy Biome for a moment. All right, pet parents, you already know that I talk all the time about needing to stop, as much as we possibly can, feeding our fur babies garbage. For lack of a better word, that's what we talk about here a lot. And again, doing the best we can, that is the message above any and everything else. The more we learn, the more we know we need to make some changes. And this episode is powered by Legacy Biome. This is no BS. And this is why I think you need Legacy Biome. So Legacy Biome offers premium. When I say premium, I mean premium FMT, fecal microbiota transplant capsules. These are products for your dog designed to restore and support a healthy gut microbiome. Yes, you heard me. Top tier microbiome therapy straight from nature's playbook. Gut health isn't optional. We talk about this all the time. It's not optional. It drives digestion, immune strength, allergy resistance, mood, and even chronic disease risk. So if your pet's gut is out of whack, their whole system is out of whack. If you've learned nothing from me thus far, I think you should know that. So Legacy Biome tells us that their donor animals live on a raw, organic diet in pristine, chemical-free environments, generations bred to preserve a rugged and unaltered microbiome. No antibiotics, no pesticides, no synthetic crap ever. And they screen those donors with the strictest protocols in the industry. Kim's over here next to me, if you can hear her. So if you have a pet that is wrestling with chronic diarrhea, itchy skin, hair loss, allergies, rebounding from antibiotics, that's a thing too. Legacy Biome is your weapon. Heck, you can just use it proactively to build a bulletproof gut and immune health. So don't worry, vets handle this. FMT is administered rectally often through veterinarians' offices, but we don't always have access to that. So what's the next best thing? FMT capsules that are enteric coated that you can get delivered straight to your home from the most pristine donor dogs ever, from Dr. Margot Roman, as a matter of fact. So top integrative vets across North America swear by Legacy Biome. That's not hype. That's physician grade endorsements. If you're ready to stop the gut wreck and start the comeback with your dog, head to legacybiome.com. That is legacybiome.com, LEGACYBIOME.com. and get some for your pet. And by the way, let me know how it goes. You know me. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. I'm here to talk to you all the time. I want to know. Let me know about it.
To try Legacy Biome for your dog, visit legacybiome.com and use code TPPR10. That's TPPR10 for 10% off.
Okay, so welcome back. And so the AAFCO 2025 annual meeting opened up with a keynote speaker, Timothy Schell, who is the acting FDA CVM director. Some of the things he said, so first of all, he said a lot without saying anything, which is always interesting because politicians kind of have a knack for that. And there was a lot of political speak at this AAFCO meeting all around because FDA CVM actually brought in, I think it was over 20 people to the meeting. It was a very well attended meeting. It was in Omaha this year, which actually was a really cute little city. Kara from Raw Paw Adventures, and I did a live. We were supposed to do 2, but we ran out of time on the second day. We did a live on the first day to kind of recap what we heard that day. So that was super fun. But some of the things he did say is that he was speaking specifically about color additives. And what he said is that what happens in the human space will be mirrored in the animal space. So, for example, the red dye, the one red dye that has been banned, and they've given, I don't know how many years to get that out of human food, that is going to be mirrored in the pet space. I don't know any more than that, but it sounds like their intention is that anything happening in the human food space as far as like banning additives, banning colors, dyes, banning things that are in food, that is going to translate into pet food, which is a really good thing in my opinion. Hopefully they follow through with that. That's obviously something he just said out loud and I don't know if it's on paper anywhere. And then, of course, he just made mention that the GRAS system, the generally recognized as safe system, is obviously something that is a big deal right now that is being talked about by the Health and Human Services Secretary, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., talking about looking at this and really seeing if it is a good system or not. Timothy Schell seemed to feel that whatever happens in the human space will also take place in the pet food space and the feed control space. And then they talked about animal food ingredient consultation replacing the AAFCO MOU. So this is something that the FDA has taken over from AAFCO, which is a big part of what AAFCO did for the FDA. So again, AAFCO representatives kind of grasping at straws, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. One of the things that I found most interesting is that, especially in Timothy Schell's speech, but it was kind of throughout, and some of the other speakers saying this as well, they all said that we were all there for one common goal, and that goal being to provide the safest food possible. I disagree. I am not there for that reason. I am there because I want the healthiest food possible. And so I think that they're missing the mark a little bit, but that is what they think they're there for. That is their goal. Their goal is to take waste, industrial waste, and make it as safe as possible in their eyes for animals to eat. So that is very disconcerting for me, but that's what happened with that. There was so much being talked about. Let's see here. I'm going through my notes in this book. So one of the things that I found interesting, they ratified a new definition of fish. Fish is undecomposed whole fish or flesh derived from the skeletal muscle with or without accompanying bone, exclusive of any added heads, fins, tails, skin, bones, and viscera, except in such amounts as might occur unavoidably in processing. It shall be suitable for use in animal food. It is intended for use in animal food as a source of protein consistent with good feeding practices. If it bears a name descriptive of its kind, it must correspond thereto. So again, one of the things that I don't like, because I work with someone, I wouldn't want to feed this to my family. That also means my pets, but I work with so many animals that have sensitivities, and to allow manufacturers to just put fish on a label is not at all transparent. Now, it does say, if it bears a name descriptive of its kind, it must correspond thereto, meaning that if a particular fish is defined, then it has to say that particular fish. I feel like all fish should be defined. Like, if we don't know what it is, then why are we feeding it? So just having something that says fish is very concerning for me, but it is obviously allowed because there is a definition for it, and you may have seen it if you have looked at ingredient labels. Something else that I find very interesting that AAFCO ratified, the official method for fluorine, fluorine, in animal feed. This is an ion selective electrode method. It was developed to analyze for fluoride in animal feed, but the results of the method are to be expressed as or reported as fluorine. This means that the method actually detects fluoride and not fluorine. Therefore, guarantees or specifications for fluorine are actually for fluoride. Isn't that confusing? And they're just saying, okay, well, it is what it is, so we'll define it as such, instead of saying, no, fix it. No, fix it. That's what I'm saying. No, fix it. Also, anything black soldier fly larva and black soldier fly larva oil, these are probably going to be very common. I don't know, in pet food, but it seems like they might eventually because they've been ratified in the definition for as part of what can be like an ingredient. It's an ingredient definition. But what's interesting to me, and if you don't know this, if you are not following along, which nobody is, consumers are the biggest percentage of people affected that need representation in feed and food for pets. And yet they have absolutely no representation, and it is terrifying. So you might look at, there might be like, I don't know, maybe even an organic certification. I don't know. This is speculation on my part for a food that has black soldier fly larva or black soldier fly larva oil. And then you don't know because the truth is the definition says that those larvae, which are approved to be used in adult dog and adult cat foods, those larvae are exclusively fed feed grade materials. So even though you might look at this and say, okay, well, it's a healthy protein source, but those larvae are only fed feed grade materials. Just like when we talk about what a cow eats or what a pig eats, and that affecting its nutrients, and that affecting the energetics, and that affecting you or your pets consuming that food, same goes with this. And so it's not going to be expressly written. That's just part of the definition. And by the way, definitions of ingredients in pet food is available for purchase. They are not free. You can purchase them as a consumer. You have to purchase them as a manufacturer. And I believe it's $250 a year, something like that, if you want to know what that is. So I'm not going to go through everything that was talked about, obviously, at the AAFCO meeting, just pulling up some of the big ones. One of the things that I did circle is that there was a new ingredient, beta manganese. I have no idea how to say that word. It is a strain of bacteria, and the intended use says utility information not evaluated for GRAS, the generally recognized as safe system. And then the FDA's letter says FDA has no questions. So I'm sure this is very common, and maybe to somebody else is like, okay, whatever. But to me, it's saying that like not even evaluated in the generally recognized as safe system, and the FDA is like, okay. Like, first of all, we don't like the GRAS system to begin with, but then if we're not even using it, what are we using? Again, red dye number 3 it has a sunset date of January 1st, 2027. So it is going to be a withdrawn ingredient. And then, here we go. Okay, so according to the PUR Act, the FDA CVM is going to be the final arbitrator regulating food safety, labels, labeling, and advertising. The states will continue testing, working with the FDA, inspections, and education. And they are touting this as regulatory harmony, is specifically what a quote I heard. The FDA and the FTC they're already responsible for the authority of, I can't read my own handwriting, of claims. They codify the language for the OP, which is the like regulation book that AAFCO created. So they already codified that language. So they're just going to continue using it. Basically, they're not going to create their own. They're going to say, okay, we've been using this forever. We're just going to go ahead and continue using it as our own. And the states still choose to work with the FDA. And then federally, they're going to codify pet food labeling. So that's kind of like the highlight of the PUR Act, is that there's going to be like one federal food labeling regulation, whereas right now every individual state, so 50 states, have their own, which is very difficult for manufacturers, especially small manufacturers. So yeah, and then they went back to 1909. So it has been more than 100 years. 1909 is when AAFCO originally started basically contracting for the FDA. And the whole point of AAFCO was to get all of the states on one page, and it has been over 100 years and they haven't been able to do that. So it does kind of make sense that the federal government wants to take it back over. So let's get to the second day at AAFCO. Yeah, so they were supposed to give updates on HPP because there's no definition for HPP. They were supposed to give a definition for jerky, still has not been defined, and there's supposed to be a definition for gently cooked, which is also not defined. None of that has happened. They requested work groups. They don't have official work groups. What's interesting with all of this is that we use HPP in human food manufacturing, so I feel like there should be some definition somewhere of it. I don't know. And then jerky, like how long has jerky been sold and there's no definition for it? That's kind of crazy as well. And then gently cooked. So I think along the same lines as and then the common food index, we added dates, pumpkin seeds, honeydew, cantaloupe, and spinach. What was really funny was somebody was like, I'm shocked we added honeydew and cantaloupe because who knows what that actually is. And I was like, what? Like, don't we know what that actually? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. You can let me know. But also, they brought up, which is so silly, they brought up food versus feed again. Now, the reason I say this is so silly is because it's like, yes, as a consumer, I absolutely want to look at this again. But as like AAFCO, this is done. This is handled. They've already decided that these two words are to be used interchangeably. So anywhere you see the word food, they mean feed, and vice versa is what they're saying. These two words are interchangeable as far as AAFCO is concerned. That's handled. That's done. I don't like it, but it's handled and it's done. So that's why I say it's silly. But somebody actually got on the mic and said, who even cares about this anymore? And I was like, wow. Like, tell me there are no consumers on these panels without telling me there are no consumers on these panels, right? Because even though consumers are the largest group affected by pet food and feed regulation, they have no say. They have no presence in regulation whatsoever. And it drives me up the wall. And manufacturers, even healthy pet food manufacturers, don't care either. They're like, leave it the way it is because they can use feed grade ingredients and still call it food. And some of the foods that we feed, some of the foods that I even recommend are technically, they have feed grade ingredients in them because this is just the way of the world for pet food. But some of the reasons that were given for not going back to redefine this is that 1, it's too much work. 2, does anybody care? That was actually asked. And then it was admitted by almost everybody that yes, it is very confusing, but nope, they are not fixing it. So pet food manufacturers may be fine with that. Industry may be fine with that. Feed control may be fine with that. As a consumer, I'm not fine with that. I want to know the difference. I want a pet food package or a pet feed package to say if it is food grade or if it is feed grade. That's what I want. So on the second day, to kind of close out the day, we had a presentation from Dr. Kathy Gross. She is a PhD diplomat from the American College of Animal Nutrition. She recently retired after a 32-year career at Hill's Pet Nutrition, and she gave a presentation on pet obesity. And here are some of my takeaways from her talk. She still believes that reducing calories is the way to combat this. that reducing calories will keep pets a healthy weight. I think this is a very short-sighted argument. Obesity is an inflammatory disease, and she did not talk about that. There was a lot of irony going on. She also could not seem, even though she had trends and graphs and showing like pet obesity and time over time, blah, blah, blah. Somehow she could not see the correlation between the overweight epidemic starting and the timing of ultra processed foods. She also barely mentioned anything about a species, or no, she didn't say anything about a biologically or a species appropriate diet. There was one mention that was like an afterthought. She gave like all of these things, like, I don't know, 15 things that needed to be done to combat pet obesity. And the last thing she said with like a second, like a blip on the screen was like, maybe we should consider fresh foods. I don't know. We need to look into that more. It wasn't even a definitive. It was just like, I don't know, maybe. And then went on with her talk. It was very, very short-sighted. The idea that just a reduction in calories is going to do it is asinine to me as a health coach, or just, I don't know, as a human walking this planet, understanding how inflammation plays a key role in everything and how kibble is the most inflammatory food that we could be feeding our pets. I believe, yeah, pretty much the most inflammatory food that we could possibly be feeding our pets. But so anyway, AAFCO was very frustrating this year. It's a lot of just sitting there being bored, and every once in a while you're like, oh my God, did I just hear what I heard? That's the AAFCO meeting. But the reality is we need more consumers there. We need a bigger presence. We need to let people know that we actually care in a meaningful way. You know, one thing that did happen this year that I'm very grateful for. So 2024, I had to pay $500 to attend. They reduced the fee for consumers to $250 this year. And so I feel like, and that took a lot of talking. Like Susan had to really push. Dr. Kathy Alanovi had to really push. And I think they listened and they're like, okay, well, let's see. Let's give it a go. And I know, Kara with Raw Paw Adventures, she also came this year. So she had the benefit of paying half what I paid last year to go. And then, of course, you have travel, airfare and hotel and all of that has to be paid as well. So it's not cheap. And so I get why people don't go, and it's boring and it's frustrating. But when we don't attend, they get to do what they want. And they get to look and say, well, you're not attending, so you obviously don't care. And that's one of the biggest takeaways for me is no, it's not fun. And no, I am not happy about the things I'm hearing. But I have every intention to continue showing up because I do care. And I don't know. That's just my message, especially to healthy pet food manufacturers. Please show up as well. Some of them do, but not all of them. And, please show up because what you do matters. Consumers, please show up. We are the biggest percentage that is affected by this, and we're not showing up. And no, they don't make it easy. They do not make it easy. They don't want us there. That's exactly why we have to be there. So I hope I didn't ramble too much, but that's kind of the highlights from the AAFCO 2025 annual meeting. Let me know if you have any questions about that, and let me know if any of this frustrates you as much as it frustrates me. I don't know. I know that these AAFCO updates, this is just the second one, but they tend to be the ones that people don't get into as far as episodes go as much as other episodes. But it's important, guys. This is the regulation. And it's still our only connection to FDA CVM at the moment. I don't know how that's going to look moving forward. I don't think anybody does, but that's another reason why I'm attending, is to figure out what this is going to look like moving forward, because we need to know. Consumers, our pets, are being affected by everything they do. And so we need to know what they're doing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end today's episode. I want to say thank you again to Legacy Biome for being the sponsor for this week's podcast. And if you have any questions about AAFCO, if you have any questions about Legacy Biome, reach out to me. Instagram is the best way to do that. Of course, I'm at the Pet Parenting Reset. Guys, I just can't wait for next week. We have another incredible guest coming next week, and I have so many more ahead for the rest of the year for you guys. With that, please give your pets some extra love from me today. And here is a message from Legacy Biome one more time. All right, pet parents, you already know that I talk all the time about needing to stop as much as we possibly can feeding our fur babies garbage. For lack of a better word, that's what we talk about here a lot. And again, doing the best we can, that is the message above any and everything else. The more we learn, the more we know we need to make some changes. And this episode is powered by Legacy Biome. This is no BS. And this is why I think you need Legacy Biome. So Legacy Biome offers premium. When I say premium, I mean premium FMT, fecal microbiota transplant capsules. These are products for your dog designed to restore and support a healthy gut microbiome. Yes, you heard me. Top tier microbiome therapy straight from nature's playbook. Gut health isn't optional. We talk about this all the time. It's not optional. It drives digestion, immune strength, allergy resistance, mood, and even chronic disease risk. So if your pet's gut is out of whack, their whole system is out of whack. If you've learned nothing from me thus far, I think you should know that. So Legacy Biome tells us that their donor animals live on a raw, organic diet in pristine, chemical-free environments, generations bred to preserve a rugged and unaltered microbiome. No antibiotics, no pesticides, no synthetic crap, ever. And they screen those donors with the strictest protocols in the industry. Kim's over here next to me, if you can hear her. So if you have a pet that is wrestling with chronic diarrhea, itchy skin, hair loss, allergies, rebounding from antibiotics, that's a thing too. Legacy Biome is your weapon. Heck, you can just use it proactively to build a bulletproof gut and immune health. So don't worry, vets handle this. FMT is administered rectally often through veterinarians' offices, but we don't always have access to that. So what's the next best thing? FMT capsules that are enteric coated that you can get delivered straight to your home from the most pristine donor dogs ever, from Dr. Margot Roman, as a matter of fact. So top integrative vets across North America swear by Legacy Biome. That's not hype. That's physician grade endorsements. If you're ready to stop the gut wreck and start the comeback with your dog, head to legacybiome.com. That is legacybiome.com, LEGACYBIOME.com, and get some for your pet. And by the way, let me know how it goes. You know me. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. I'm here to talk to you all the time. I want to know. Let me know about it.
To try Legacy Biome for your dog, visit legacybiome.com and use code TPPR10, that's TPPR10, for 10% off.